Now, on that note, talking about mockery, I want to segue to Julian the Apostate.
Oh
Have you
yeah, good
come
old Julian.
across any research concerning Flavius Claudius Julianus, Julian the Apostate, that he was aware of the origin of the Christian religion and that it's basically a joke?
Yeah, no, that he didn't declare that, and that is puzzling to me because he certainly
Mhm.
was aware of it,
Yeah.
and he would have been, as Caesar, in a position since he wanted to get rid of Christianity to bring out um, the the true origins of it.
Hmm.
Um, so it's just inexplicable. So it's a weakness in my theory. He should have, if he really
Yeah.
wanted to destroy it, the apostate should have said, "Look, guys, this is, the Gospels are just, Flavian vanity." Now, I think that the reason that he didn't is probably because the Gospels themselves were so there's so few people who are even aware of them.
Hmm.
I don't think the Gospels were in large circulation. When Constantine, this was the big push to promote the Gospels. I think he made like 30 copies.
Hmm.
So I think before that, there were probably only like two copies or something.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
just, it was just so. So I think that's kind of is that Julian when he went to shut down Christianity as a state religion, the Flavian typology was something that was just not really had any potency at that
Hmm.
point,
Hmm.
and really wasn't something that would have helped him, bring it about as bring about the end of it. Um, I also think that he wouldn't have known the consequences of it. In other words, his Caesarship was tenuous, like they all were to some extent,
Hmm.
and if he had mocked Christianity in that way, I think he might have foreseen that there could be rebellions, or it wouldn't have been to his advantage politically
Hmm.
uh,
Hmm.
to incite the Christians against him in that way. Um, I think he wanted to, like a lot of the Caesars, to just reestablish the imperial cult and the ancient Roman religions, just because he saw that as a better template
Yeah.
than Christianity. But Christianity had a huge advantage in that it was monotheistic.
Hmm.
And as you're going to set up a slave system, you don't want to do polytheism because it's, your control elements are too diffuse. You've got
Hmm.
gods for everything. So Christianity was an ideal, um, mind control element for the feudal system. Um, but and I don't think, and I think this is really the key, is I think that the Julian continued, even though he was trying to get rid of Christianity, but he wanted to continue with the like the edicts against the coloni. In other words, the feudal system that Constantine began
Hmm.
had the religious parts of it, and it also had, kind of the mechanical farming parts of it, where they were, uh, going to take away the rights of people to own land and things like this. And so I think Julian wanted to continue with that. In other words, he wanted to make a more structured slave state, just like Constantine did.
Hmm.
Um, but but had the idea that we didn't need to do this really severe, ending of all of our traditions, and we could just find a way to do it while maintaining the imperial cult and the polytheistic, pantheon of gods and whatnot. Um, but um, that he didn't succeed in that, and was then deposed, and then Christianity was made the state religion shortly thereafter.
Hmm.
But it is, I would think of all of the, if people wanted to criticize sort of the historical logic of Caesar's Messiah theory, Julian the Apostate would be a great, kind of candidate,
Hmm.
because it is curious, since I'm sure he would have known. I
Hmm.
mean, it's hard other words, it's hard for me to imagine that he wouldn't have known that this would have been something that would have only been kept inside of Constantine's family, that the Flavian typology. Though it is possible,
Mhm.
but I would think it's more likely he did know, decided that he didn't want to make it the state religion, so he was going to put the
Mhm.
brakes on it to some extent.
Mhm.
But then he wasn't able to get it that accomplished, and then the subsequent Caesars just said, no, this is just a perfect mind control technique. Let's just go with it. So, I mean, that's kind of my explanation.
Okay. All right. Julian the Apostate refers to Christians as the Galileans, which I think is rather
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah,
Um, but I haven't come across anything because I've read his work. I think it's titled Against the Galileans. I
yeah.
haven't come across anything that actually just blatantly states that it was the Flavians who created Christianity. I
Right.
haven't come
And
across any clues.
why doesn't he mention it? Now it could be, the libraries kept burning for Rome,
Hmm.
had this
Yeah.
odd thing. So it could have been that they scrubbed the literature. I mean, he could have, come up with something and saying, this Galilean business is ridiculous, and explained it. And then that scroll, you know, is lost, and therefore, it is hard for us to see how finite mass communication was during this period. I mean,
Mhm.
it's just a few scrolls.
Yeah.
Um, and if you want to get an element of culture, removed, it isn't that big a deal. You just
Mhm.
need to know where the libraries are, and and destroy whatever literature would have, been a problem.
Mhm.
So these things are possible. I mean, somehow it Christianity was able to transition past Julian, and from then on it was pretty much smooth sailing. The Pontiff Maximus was no longer Caesar; he was the Pope,
Mhm.
and it ruled. It was a religious structured mind control system, and
Mhm.